Hey there, I'm Todd on High, and today I'm showcasing another build for the Division 2, but this one's a little different. I call it the Tardigrade True Patriot ACS-12 Crusader Shield build, because I gave up on trying to come up with a code name to summarize all that. As with all my builds, this one is very effective for general PvE play and for farming challenging missions in groups. This build relies on a lot of specific things though. The Tardigrade exotic chess piece, a 4-piece True Patriot set, an Opportunistic Badger Tough backpack, the Crusader shield skill, and the ACS-12 shotgun. That's a lot of moving parts, so let's establish first what the goals are of this build. 1. You're going to support your teammates with a decent amount of temporary armor when theirs breaks. 2. You're going to distract and debuff enemies from close range. And 3, you're going to not impede the line of fire between your teammates and the enemy. As always, I'll say going in that this is really just a template. If there are aspects of it that don't work for you or your playstyle, feel free to change it up. But I also have to say, once I got this build fully assembled, it was really difficult to put it down. 2 things I want to address right off the bat. I'm refusing to call this a tank build. And I'm not using the Pestilence alongside this 4-piece True Patriot set. As I've said before on this channel, I've never been a fan of shield builds. I was not into the D3 or defense gear set in Division 1, and the way I play isn't very conducive to shield use. As I've also said, there are little to no threat mechanics in this game, nor is there any damage reduction at this time, so as the community has also concluded, being a tank in the Division 2 just boils down to eating slightly more damage. The important thing is what you do while you eat that damage. Bottom line, a shielded, high armor, shotgun-wielding maniac is bound to draw some attention on the battlefield, and that's part of what this build is all about. Mastering this build requires situational awareness, on-the-fly prioritization, and putting yourself in danger constantly. There is no passive gameplay with this build. The ACS-12, aka the Showstopper or Fart Cannon, applies your red flag debuff and Opportunist, which combined will increase the damage to each enemy you mark by 18% from all sources. You're a damage-eating debuff machine, and your primary function is to get up close and personal to keep the enemy focused on you rather than your teammates. But that is just the beginning. Not only do your debuffs help take enemies down faster, but the True Patriot and Opportunist effects mark enemies to make them more visible and easier to shoot. Although the ACS-12 doesn't do massive damage, for a shotgun anyway, it is fairly accurate even outside its optimal range, and with this build, applying the debuffs is just as important as doing actual gun damage. You're there to kill enemies, obviously, but you're also there to facilitate killing them faster. The rate of fire and repeated headshots can stagger enemies and keep their attention focused on you. With every encounter, you'll have options like where to stand and who to mark. In corridors, such as in the Tombs mission, you can spin mobs around so your teammates can fire at their backs or weak points, all while making the enemy take more damage. The Tardigrade isn't just there for your teammates either. With a close-up shield build, you will definitely be taking your fair share of damage, and with the Crusader shield, you can easily be shot in your legs or in the head in addition to your back and sides. This requires an additional level of awareness, watching your minimap to know where your enemies are at all times, and when additional waves spawn. It also helps to look for alcoves or corners where you can line of sight enemies like heavy gunners for a brief respite. Similar to my anchor build, I chose to go with a 2-4-0 setup here, and for similar reasons. Any less than 4 blues would put you more into hybrid territory than tanky territory. Not to mention, the Tardigrade temporary armor is based on your max armor. While it's nice to have 1.7 million armor for when that ability procs, it's much nicer to actually be able to kill enemies. 2 red stats isn't huge, but that plus your debuffs will make a big difference. For me, there's no room for yellows in this build, except possibly repair skills in your substats, but those would be better devoted to things like headshot damage. I'm not exaggerating when I say that some rooms will go by so quickly that you may not realize you took out 3 waves in rapid succession. Warhounds especially become a bit of a joke, until they explode and briefly disable your shield. So the shotgun is part of what makes this build. As a secondary weapon, I would suggest something like Glory Days or any decent assault rifle with the nearsighted talent. Since you can't use LMGs with the Crusader shield and you'll be up close anyway, a very stable assault rifle provides a nice backup option, especially when you've run yourself out of shotgun ammo. Any SMG would be fine too, if you prefer those. For skills, obviously one is taken up by the Crusader shield. Whether you use the firewall version is up to you though. For the other skill, anyone who watches this channel knows I'm a big fan of the chem launcher, as I use that as my primary heal almost exclusively. With little to no yellow stats though, it isn't the beastly powerhouse it is on other builds, and mostly there just to help you take a breather when necessary. I didn't mean to just gloss over your specialization choice, as you do have options when it comes to that. Firewall is a solid default due to the enhanced Crusader shield, buffs against enemies close to you, the 10% crit damage grip attachment, and the cool noise the grenades make. On the other hand, Gunner provides some definite benefits with the armor on kill, rate of fire buff, ammo regen, and a much easier time killing something with your specialist weapon to reset the Tardigrade cooldown. Both specializations provide beneficial armor kits for this setup, so the decision to go one way or the other will really come down to your preference and playstyle. Armor kits are important, especially because your heal will be somewhat weak if you even bring one. Your mileage will vary with this build, especially by group and by difficulty. By no means are you invincible, rather the extra armor and shield are there to facilitate you getting up close so that you can debuff and shotgun headshot the enemies. With that, one thing I can't overstate is how important it is for you to not occupy the space between the enemy and your teammates. This is regardless of whether you use the Firewall Crusader shield. You need to be aware of positions and lines of fire. Not only is it hugely annoying to have a teammate block your bullets, but since your group will be doing the majority of the actual damage, you being in their way only slows things down. The goal of this build, and any build I publish a video for, is to speed things up. If this doesn't help kill mobs faster, it's probably not worth using. This build can't make you take better positions or keep you from dying. Those things you'll need to handle yourself. You may go down a few times from being too aggressive, but don't be afraid to experiment. You'll be surprised how effectively you can manipulate the AI behavior from up close. If you're getting downed so often you feel like you need your revive hive, it's very possible your positioning is so poor that your teammates can't kill the enemies fast enough. While it's still somewhat fun to play solo, this build works best in a group, mostly because it's difficult to close the distance with a shield without making yourself vulnerable, and the enemies can attack from quite a ways away. Regardless, always make sure to keep your positioning in mind, as well as which direction you're facing. And that's it! If you have any questions about the build, or spot any major errors, let me know, and definitely circle back with a comment if you try this out. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoy this sort of content, please drop a like and subscribe. Good luck out there, agents, and happy farming!